If you're not resting and recovering properly, it actually doesn't matter how much work you're doing in the gym, and I hate to be the one to break it to you. If you don't know me, my name is Haley. I'm your realistic and balanced bestie, helping you build a stronger brain and body. You hear it all the time that rest is so important and your muscles need time to recover, but this can be really hard to achieve when our days are busy, our lives are hectic, and we can't seem to stop scrolling TikTok at 11 p.m. So today I'm gonna tell you how to improve your recovery, how long it takes to actually recover, why sleep is so important, and how to optimize your sleep routine. Before we get into it, please take a second to make sure that you're following me on Spotify or subscribed on YouTube. You can also poke around in my description box for a bunch of links that are going to help you on your fitness and mindset journey. Now, when it comes to recovery, it's more than just taking days off and making sure that you don't overtrain. I'm going to break down the keys that you need to make sure that you're really focusing on to ensure that you're not only recovering and building muscle properly, but also to ensure that you're doing everything you can to make sure that you have the best sleep possible. And we're going to get a little bit more into that later. So a common issue that I see in the fitness community is that people think that they only need to rest once they get sore, or that soreness just means that they went too hard in the gym, when in reality, soreness, or sometimes it's going to be called DOMS or delayed onset muscle soreness, is simply just from stimulating your muscles a little bit differently than you normally do. So if I do front squats today and normally I do back squats, then I'm probably going to feel sore the next day, but not even necessarily because I pushed myself super hard or hit a new PR or anything like that, but simply just because I stimulated my muscles a little bit differently. Now, of course, you're also probably going to feel sore if you hit a new PR because that is also stimulating your muscles differently than you normally do. But the point being that soreness does not necessarily equate to a good workout or more muscle building than stimulating your muscles like you normally do. I also see a lot of people who feel really heavy soreness and then they take 3, 4, 5 days off until the soreness goes away, but all that's doing is guaranteeing that when you start back up at that same intensity, you're gonna restart the cycle and you're gonna feel sore to that same level all over again. As uncomfortable as it may be, the best thing you can actually do when you feel soreness is some kind of movement, whether that be a walk, cycling, yoga, or even just doing a full workout to a little bit less of a big intensity. So if, for example, you hit legs on Tuesday and your next leg day is supposed to be on Friday, but you still feel a little bit sore from that Tuesday workout, the best thing that you can actually do is go through with that Friday workout, but just take things a little bit lighter. Use a little bit less weight than you normally would do, and just make sure that you're still getting those muscles working. The caveat here being that if you feel pain that is way past soreness and you actually feel intense pain in the muscles that you worked, then this could actually be a sign of overtraining. So some other signs when it comes to overtraining that you want to look out for could be losing your period, or feeling super unfocused, or having really intense brain fog. You also want to look out for it if you're getting sick more frequently, or if you have an injury that keeps popping up, or an old injury that you keep re-injuring yourself on. And another one that's highly overlooked is actually symptoms of depression. So a lot of times people feel really overwhelming sadness and they think that they're either struggling with a bout of depression or that their depression has gotten worse, when in reality, really intense sadness can actually be just a sign of overtraining. Now, if you are overtraining, unfortunately, you're gonna have to bite the bullet and just take anywhere from a few weeks to maybe up to a month off of training just to let your body fully recover. Of course, that's going to depend on how intensely you were training before and how much your body is really just done for right now. Now, if you think you're overtraining but you're not 100% sure, a great way to tell is to make sure that you're focusing on the 5 things I'm about to tell you. And if you do all those things and you still find that you have the symptoms of overtraining, then unfortunately, that might be your sign. But first, let's get into these 5 things. Number 1 is going to be controlling your stress levels. Now, training in itself is actually already going to be a stress on the body. And so if you have other stresses in your life on top of that, then your nervous system can't really tell the difference between the good stress that comes from working out and the bad stress that comes from just every other aspect of life. So if you can reduce your life stressors through things like journaling, meditation, even yoga, stretching, or just taking 5 minutes to yourself to just sit in silence each day, then this is going to help reduce some of those stress levels, and it will help your body to use the stress that comes from training as a way to actually help improve your mood and help you feel a little bit less stressed overall. But unfortunately, your nervous system only knows to use that exercise stress as a way to reduce your overall stress levels when it's not in fight or flight. So when you're in fight or flight, when you're super stressed about all these things and then you add that exercise stress on top of it, your body has no idea what's going on. And it's just like, oh my God, we're so stressed. We're just gonna make everything catastrophic right now. But when you lighten that mental load just a little bit, then your nervous system is like, oh, okay, we know what to do. We can take that exercise stress and we can use it in the ways that we actually need to. Number 2 is going to be eating properly. And by properly, I mean doing these 3 things. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on getting high protein in every single day, making sure that you're eating carbs in relation to how much you move. So if you're more sedentary and you're sitting down all day, you're going to have a little bit less carbs in your day than somebody who is up and active and moving around for 10 hours a day. And number 3 being to eat your veggies. And I know all 3 of those sound really basic, but I promise you, most people are not consistently doing these things. I have a protein calculator that's linked below, or you can just make sure that you're focusing on getting 3 to 4 servings of protein every single day as a great way to start on that protein goal, because protein is a huge factor in making sure that your muscles are recovering properly after a workout. Along with that, carbs are also super important to make sure that you're recovering properly, and that is why I will never tell you to cut out all carbs. While protein is the key to really restoring your muscles and strengthening them, carbs are going to be the thing that are restoring your glycogen stores, which is actually what your body uses for energy. So making sure that you have a good balance of both of those is really going to be the key to making sure that everything that you're eating is properly fueling you and helping you recover. Number 3 is hydration. So I know we all know that you need to be hydrated. That's kind of common sense at this point. But when it comes to hydration for working out and hydration for making sure that you're recovering properly, the easiest way to stay hydrated is to make sure that you're aiming to drink half of your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 120 pounds, you want to try to aim to drink 60 ounces of water. Now, on the days that you're doing a particularly heavy workout or a really intense cardio workout, for example, you want to add 8 ounces of water to your intake for every 10 minutes of heavy, intense training that you're doing. So if you did 40 minutes of a really intense workout, then you're adding an extra 32 ounces of water to your total daily intake for that day. This is important because if you're dehydrated, your muscle recovery process is going to slow down drastically, and your body is going to be unable to flush out all of that excess lactic acid that builds up when you work out, and that's going to cause you to feel a lot more sore, and it's going to take that soreness a lot longer to go away. Number 4 is kind of the more basic recovery options that we think of when we think of recovery. So this is things like massage, stretching, and foam rolling. And I really think that a good mix of all 3 is kind of the key to recovering like a pro. Massaging your muscles helps increase blood flow to that area, and this improved circulation brings more oxygen and nutrients into your muscles. And that is going to aid in the repair process as well as help relax tight muscles and reduce tension. Stretching, on the other hand, is going to help lengthen and relax any tight muscles that would have tightened up during your workout, which can reduce muscle stiffness and improve your flexibility. Stretching is also going to help improve more blood flow to that area, kind of similarly to massaging, while foam rolling, which is a form of self-massage or self-myofascial release, applies pressure to the soft tissues, which helps release muscle tension and trigger points. This process can actually help break up scar tissue in the muscles, promoting better muscle function and flexibility. So aiming to foam roll at least once a day is a great way to really improve your mobility. And I know stretching is boring, but aiming to do it at least 3 to 5 times a week is going to really drastically improve your recovery, as well as trying to get a massage, or at the least doing a massage gun, or seeing if your gym has a massage gun option. Trying to do that at least once a month is going to really help improve your recovery as well. And number 5, last but not least, we are really diving into sleep here. We all tend to think that we fully understand sleep and that we know how to do it properly, but honestly, most of us are probably not getting the quality of sleep that we need to really maximize our recovery and just have more energy in our day in general. Studies actually show that on average, the majority of people are undersleeping by about 90 minutes per night. And not sleeping enough isn't just detrimental to our bodies, but it's also detrimental to our brain. So there's 2 main distinct parts of our sleep cycle. There's 4 total, but they kind of fit into these 2 realms here. You have your non-REM sleep and your REM sleep. REM sleep being rapid eye movement sleep. So your first 3 phases are actually that non-REM sleep, and this is actually where your body gets most of its recovery from. This is where your muscles are really healing and your immune system is strengthening. Now, REM sleep is actually when your brain activity starts to pick back up, and this is kind of at the end of your sleep cycle. And this stage is really essential to cognitive function, so things like creativity, learning, and memory are really formed in this stage. While REM sleep is known as deep sleep, that non-REM sleep is actually where our body is doing most of its recovering from. So a lot of times when we feel like we've slept a lot, but we wake up and we still feel like we're just tired or we're groggy or something just doesn't feel right, this actually means that you probably didn't get enough non-REM sleep and you got too much REM sleep. And a lot of things can really affect that non-REM sleep sleep time. So things like eating too late, drinking alcohol, and even having cold feet, which that one shocked me a lot, but we're gonna get into it. When it comes to alcohol, I know that we think because it helps us fall asleep that, oh, it must be good, it probably helps my sleep quality. But in reality, it's actually causing us to have worse quality sleep because it's putting us in that REM sleep stage for a lot longer than it normally does. That means that our body actually isn't getting that much rest when we go to bed after drinking because we're not getting that non-REM sleep as much as we need to. This is also why you might notice that you have a little bit more insane dreams whenever you've been drinking, because that active creative part of our brain is a lot more active during that REM sleep. This is similar to eating really late at night, because not only does eating late cause us to have a little bit more trouble falling asleep, but also the process of digestion can actually divert resources away from other restorative aspects of sleep and can cause you to wake up more often during that non-REM sleep. Because of this, it's smart to try to time that last meal of the day 2 to 3 hours before you're actually falling asleep, just to make sure you're not disrupting that non-REM sleep. Now, the one factor that shocked me the most when it comes to sleeping is learning that having cold hands or feet can actually disrupt the quality of your sleep. And that's because having cold feet can actually constrict your blood vessels and can cause less blood to circulate throughout your body. And not having this blood circulate means that your body isn't properly able to regulate its temperature, which is a huge signal to your body that it's time to go to sleep. So according to the National Sleep Foundation, it can actually be really helpful to warm your feet up before bed, so either wearing fuzzy socks or taking a warm bath, which we'll get into later. But this can be a great signal to your body that it's time to go to bed and we need to start calming down and circulating that blood. Now, on top of those 3 things, I'm actually going to give you the 10 best ways to optimize your sleep routine so that you can get the best sleep and also maximize your recovery while you're sleeping. Number 1 being reducing any blue light before you go to bed. This is because being exposed to blue light can actually throw off our circadian rhythm and make us think that it's daytime when it's not, which is just going to make it harder for you to fall asleep. So if you have an iPhone, I highly recommend turning on the nighttime mode. I forget what it's called. I think it's called something like that. Mine goes off at 7 p.m. every single night, so it turns to like an orangey, yellowy light on my phone instead of the normal blue light that we're used to looking at all day. Also, changing the bulbs in your house to an orangey red light is a great way to do this as well if you have the option to. I know some people use the Philips Hue light. I personally don't use them, but I've heard great things about those and they kind of look cool, so highly recommend. Number 2 is exercising daily. Exercise is not only a great stress reliever like we talked about earlier, it's going to help lower those stress levels in general, which is just going to help you to sleep better, but it also has been proven that people who exercise earlier in the day fall asleep faster at night. Number 3 is using mouth tape, which is something I recently started doing, but nasal breathing is a huge way to help improve your health in general because breathing through your nose helps filter that air before it gets to your lungs, which can help improve your respiratory health. If you breathe through your mouth for 8 hours a night, not only are you going to wake up with dry mouth and possibly bad breath, but you'll also have worse quality REM sleep than if you were to breathe through your nose throughout the entire night. This is because nasal breathing produces a gas called nitric oxide, which lowers your blood pressure, improves your brain function, and increases blood flow in the brain. Number 4 is reducing caffeine and alcohol intake. Obviously, we touched on alcohol a little bit earlier, but I wanted to point out that studies have shown that even drinking alcohol early in the day can still have an effect on your sleep that night. Similarly to that, caffeine has actually been shown to have a half-life of up to 12 hours. So even if you say, oh, I cut my caffeine off at 3 p.m., I don't drink coffee after that time, you still might be affecting the quality of your sleep just by having caffeine in that day in general. Now, I don't think it's bad to consume coffee or even alcohol, but I do think it's something to be mindful of and to try to not do it every single day because, again, you're really just going to be throwing off your sleep cycle if you're doing this on a consistent basis. Number 5 is getting in a warm bath or using a sauna before bed is going to help improve your sleep quality because when you get out of that bath or that sauna, your body is going to have to work to regulate your core body temperature. Now, this lowering of your core body temperature is actually something that your body already does when it's getting ready to go to bed, so kind of forcing this to happen naturally is a great way for your body to really signal that it's time to go to bed and it's time to switch your brain into that sleep time mode. Number 6 is to make your bed somewhere that you just sleep. And this is kind of more of a mental thing, but I know that when I started doing this personally, my ability to fall asleep fast skyrocketed because I used to spend hours just laying in my bed, scrolling on my phone, scrolling through TikTok, doing whatever in the morning and at night, and I could really start to tell that my body associated being in bed with just being on my phone and just laying there scrolling instead of being in my bed to sleep. So I started by removing my phone time in the morning, so I just block all my apps so that I physically can't scroll on anything in the mornings. And then I slowly would switch to just watching a TV show at night, and eventually I started just reading at night, just to kind of slow my brain down and make myself a little bit more tired. I also think it's great in general to just try to not get in your bed after you wake up in the morning. So if you can just make your bed and not get back into it until you go to bed that night, this is going to really help your brain signal the difference between, okay, I'm awake right now, I'm outside of my bed, versus I'm laying in bed, now it's time to go to sleep. So even if you are home or you work from home or you're just home a lot, trying to just focus on sitting only on your couch or sitting in a chair instead of getting back in bed when you're not doing work or when you just have some downtime, that's gonna really help separate the two so that your brain doesn't get confused. Number 7 is avoiding stress-inducing things before you go to bed. Now, I'm not one to say that you have to absolutely cut off all technology before you go to sleep because I think while that is great and that's wonderful to aim for, it's really not 100% necessary if you don't want to. But I think what really matters is the content that you're consuming before you go to bed. So when you're doing something like scrolling TikTok, which is almost designed to put you in a flight or fight type of situation because you never know what's coming next, you're always just waiting and scrolling and seeing what's going to be the next video that pops up, what kind of video am I going to see next. That is when I think it's a problem, because when your brain is in fight or flight, you physically are not going to be thinking about going to bed. That is the last thing on your mind when you are in this fight or flight mode. So try to make sure that you're not stressing yourself out right before you go to bed. I personally like to just watch my comfort YouTubers or scroll on Pinterest if I really want to scroll on something, because that's not as stress inducing to me. I'm just looking at pictures of cute home decor. So something that is not going to put you into that fight or flight type of situation. You can also just listen to music or listen to affirmations, really whatever it is, as long as it's not something that's going to add more stress onto your brain. Number 8 is reducing the temperature in your room. So kind of like that warm bath that we talked about earlier, because your body is lowering that core body temperature and it uses that as a signal that you're about to go to bed. Lowering the temperature in your room is also a great way to just kind of signal this and force it to happen naturally. Sleeping in a cold room will also help your body maintain that temperature throughout the night, which is going to help you sleep a little bit better and not wake up as much throughout the night. Number 9 is no fluids 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed. And I know this one seems like it should be common sense, but you'd be surprised. I know getting up in the middle of the night to pee doesn't really seem like it's that disruptive to our sleep cycle, especially when we can try to fall asleep pretty quickly after we get back in bed, but interrupting our sleep cycles in general is just going to make us feel a lot more groggy in the morning. It's going to leave us with a lot less energy, and we're just going to feel a little bit more out of it than if we were to just sleep all the way throughout the night. So doing your best to just make sure you're not chugging a bunch of water before you go to bed is really all you need to focus on to make sure that you're not disrupting those sleep cycles. And number 10 is actually a website that I've been using since I think sophomore or junior year of high school. It's called sleepytime.me, I think, or sleepytie.me. I promise if you just Google it, it'll pop up. All it does is tell you when you should aim to go to bed based on the time that you want to wake up. And it does this by calculating the average length of sleep cycles. So when you tell it what time you want to wake up, it gives you a few different options of what times you should try to go to sleep based on when you would be getting into those sleep cycles. It also takes into account the fact that the average time to fall asleep is 7 to 10 minutes, so it adds that time onto when it tells you to go to bed. This is also not sponsored, by the way. I just genuinely have been using this for like 10 years. I don't even think there's a paid option. All that being said, that if you're doing all of these things that I just mentioned and you're still feeling like your body just isn't recovering the way that you want it to, or you just feel more sore, more tired, and just more unfocused in general, then unfortunately that's probably a sign that you are indeed overtraining, or that you need to go get tested for some vitamin deficiencies, because those can also heavily impact your recovery and your sleep abilities. But overall, if you aim to do all of these things consistently, you are going to notice astronomical changes in your recovery and your sleep. You're also probably going to notice a lot of changes in your aesthetic goals as well, because when your body is functioning at its prime essentially, and you're recovering and you're sleeping the way that you're supposed to, your body can way more easily focus on building muscle and shedding fat and doing all the things that we want it to do. Now, obviously, you're probably not going to be perfect at absolutely every single one of these suggestions, but overall, just analyzing your sleep routine, your recovery routine, and seeing which one of these things you can add and what's the most feasible for you is a great place to start. For me, I noticed that really focusing on timing that last meal to be 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed made a huge difference in my sleep schedule. and the fact that I just felt like I slept so much harder throughout the night. I also eliminate blue light at 7 p.m. Like I said, it just goes off on my phone automatically. And then I've started using mouth tape, which I do think makes a difference. I'm not 100% sure that I'm sold on it yet, but I've been testing it out and I'm gonna see how I like it. And I'll probably do a few weeks or a month or so with no mouth tape just to see if I notice any differences. Along with that, I also wear fuzzy socks to go to bed because I just have naturally cold feet and I didn't think that that was really affecting me, but now that I know that it can, I wear fuzzy socks every single chance that I get. And personally, I cut off my caffeine at 11 a.m. if I'm gonna have caffeine that day, just because I really am super sensitive to caffeine and I don't drink a lot of it in general. So the earlier I can cut it off, the better for me. So comment below and let me know which one of these things you're gonna add into your sleep routine. And let me know if there's anything that I didn't mention that you do in your nighttime routine that you really think improves the quality of your sleep. That is all that I've got for you today. Until next time, be kind to your mind, to your body, and to others, and happy healing. It improves your brain function and lowers blood pressure. Why was that such a tongue twister?